I just bought the last two Doc Peps in this fridge at the HEB. This one I marked with an S. This one I marked with an N for not shaken and shaken. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to shake the fuck out of that. Look at that. Shaken as fuck. And then I'm going to put them in the fridge. And then I'm going to compare the fizziness. Do you see that? The one on the right is the one I shook vigorously. And it has a noticeably smaller amount of liquid in there. Although it also still has some droplets on the top. Interesting. Okay, so here I have two bottles of Dr. Pepper. This one I have labeled with an S because I've vigorously shaken it. And this one is labeled with an N because I've not vigorously shaken it. So neither of these have been open, and they've been sitting for 2 days since I've shaken this bottle. So in theory, they should be the same. One thing I did notice is the level in this bottle is a hair lower than in that bottle. Now, that could just be due to uneven filling. However, if the CO2 were to become not dissolved in here, that could explain the lower CO or the lower liquid level as a whole. But yeah, theoretically, there should be no difference because these should already have been at equilibrium. When you shake that bottle, the CO2 gas should go back to being dissolved in the liquid to get back to equilibrium. Because it's sealed, you can't have any higher pressure in the bottle than there already is. So, with that out of the way, let's first do a pour test. So I'm going to go with the non-shaken bottle as our baseline. Could hear it had a short hiss. A little bit of bubbles at the top. Nothing crazy. And then, this is hard to do. Let me go around the camera. And you know, you don't get very much fizz from this one. Remember, this is not shaken. So very minimal fizz. And no more bubbles. Okay. So now let's go with the shaken one. Interestingly, that had a longer hiss. And yeah, that's the shaken one. And a little bit more bubbles. Oh, the lid does not want to cooperate. Let me go back around the camera. This one is more fizzy. Okay. Well, the next step is the taste test. They have both settled down mostly. Actually, this one's still bubbling. Look at this. Might be hard to see on camera, but it's still bubbling a bit. This one isn't. Let me do the non-shaken one first. That honestly doesn't taste that carbonated, but doesn't taste completely flat either. But then Dr. Pepper already kind of loses its carbonation pretty quickly. Let me try the shaken one. I think because it's still fizzing a little bit, I did feel the bubbles a bit more. It doesn't taste any different, though. Yeah, I would say there's no major difference between these two. Dr. Pepper's already not super carbonated to begin with. But yeah, honestly, the one that was shaken seemed to be... It acted less flat than the one that was unshaken. So I'm going to say that the theory holds true. So for some final thoughts, you'll notice that the lot numbers on these two bottles are not the same, and in fact the expiration dates are a month apart, which means they were probably bottled a month apart. So lot-to-lot variation could explain the slight differences in fill level and potentially slight differences in carbonation level. And I almost wonder if the two are related. So, for example, if there is slightly less liquid in the bottle that I shook, would that mean that there was more carbon dioxide in the bottle slightly, and then thus more would have to be dissolved into the liquid? I really don't know. But either way, I think one thing is for sure, shaking the bottle did not ruin it or anything.